Good morning. So I have here with me Jumana and Helen. And I think, Jumana is a special guest here today with us. Jumana started with Reconnect and the Heartfulness Initiative for Professionals, which is a holistic approach to being the, best version you can be. And it started with purpose coaching and multiple sessions to really dig into purpose. But then alongside with purpose, the question always pops up is how, if we have limiting beliefs, if we have things that are stopping us, then how do we pursue our purpose? And what popped up with Jumana along the process was a lot of very valid and very good reasons for her to have limiting beliefs. And we will get to her explaining that. But I'm very happy because, Jumana came and Jumana's session with Helen, a rapid transformational therapy, came as a result of identification of very specific conditions that we wanted to address. And therefore, there was a choice. And, it could have been anything if it was another condition. And that's the holisticality of the program itself. So I'm glad to have you here with us, Jumana, today. And we have Helen. Helen is a rapid transformational therapy expert. And she, I think, we've worked many times in the past. I believe in RTT because I've done a session with Helen, which was fantastic for me. And that's why I find myself giving myself the liberty to recommend Helen to others. So we're here. Thank you for having us. Would you like to say hi?
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Thanks for having us, Roger. Thanks for organizing this.
Thank you, Helen.
Yeah,
Helen,
thanks for
briefly before kind of getting into the session and talking, more about Jumana's experience, just briefly, what is RTT? Like really briefly, what does it achieve?
Yeah, RTT allows you to remove blocks that you didn't know you had. So if you're somebody who says, I'm going to do this, and you don't do things, there's something unconsciously stopping you from doing that. And one session allows you to go back and have a bit of a digger. It's like taking a trip down memory lane to understand what's stopping you from moving forward. And then you go through a process of disconnecting, eliminating, and then it sets you free.
Thank you so much. So Helen just said it, and Jumana was with Helen about a few days ago, did her session. We waited a bit to see how that manifests in the real world. Jumana, now that Helen shared with us what RTT is, and which was exactly the reason why, as part of the program, I recommended to you to see Helen. It was because we've identified the purpose, but then there were, familial, social, personal, experiences that were blocking you from moving forward. So a brief introduction about you, and can you tell us about, how do you feel RTT has serviced you on that front?
Yeah, so I'll just get into some details. Like I'm in my late 20s and I grew up in the UAE. I'm Palestinian Jordanian, and I live with my family, like most people in this region. And yeah, I mean, when I started working with Roger, it was, I needed some guidance. I needed to find my purpose, and I didn't just find, it helped me navigate that space, but I also had someone who understood me. And also Helen's background, she mentioned she worked with many people from this region, so she understands our background and what we deal with. And I was actually struggling with this physically, like you feel like something's holding you back, like emotionally, mentally, you're just stuck. And you can do all the journaling in the world and you can try to ask yourself all the questions, but there are multiple aspects to dealing with your mental and emotional, let's say, like difficult phases in your life. Doesn't only go with journaling or exercising. Sometimes you need to do other things. And when I met Roger and he mentioned RTT therapy to me, I got very curious. I was already doing meditation because I heard meditation helps a lot. It helps you align, like let's say meditation in the morning, meditation at night. It helps you align with who you want, what kind of energy you want to embody that day, or if you need some kind of support to get out of some kind of a negative state of mind. So I got curious, and the session was amazing. Like, it changed my life. It gave me insight, like within the session itself. You know, I saw things. It addressed very specific things in my, let's say, familial wounds, like motherhood wounds, or, you know, that they, as everyone knows, like a lot of the issues that you have as an adult, we hear all the time, it goes back to your childhood. And it helped me see that in a constructive way, but then also let it go in the session. It's very powerful. And, you know, I left the session feeling like a different person, and I documented everything. And yeah, I mean, if you have any questions you want to ask me specifically, like I can, you know, answer you. But I really felt like I think everyone should try this. Everyone should understand the power of meditation, and then like everyone should try this. You know, there's no harm in it. Like it's just you seeing what's on the inside, and going deep into your subconscious mind and your childhood and whatever it is that you need to deal with, and it helps a lot.
Jumana, you know, it's very interesting because, you know, for like, you know, RTT is nothing like conventional therapy. It tackles specific aspects of life which are stopping you from literally being who you want to be, in a sense, right? And it does. It's amazing because it's combining, I believe, Helen, it combines, can you tell us, like, it combines multiple
modalities. So RTT combines a couple of modalities: cognitive behavioral therapy, hypnosis, neurolinguistic program, and psychoanalysis. So when you do all of this in a state of meditation and relaxation, which is the hypnosis, you have greater access to bypass the conscious mind, which is the ego. And the ego's job is essentially to keep you safe. So the ego at one point in time believed these beliefs because it kept you safe. But now that you're a woman and you've changed environments and you want to do different things, that's the reason why we use hypnosis. You bypass the ego and you go back to the root cause, to the center of where all the problems began. And once people begin to understand that, what happens is you let it go in your mind, and then the nervous system relaxes and the body relaxes, and that's when the process becomes really transformative.
Amazing. Look, Jumana, you know, like, I mean, I knew exactly why I wanted, and you had a lot of clarity on why RTT was important. So, you know, based on what Helen said, like, did you have that clarity when you went there and knowing exactly what you wanted to address? And now, after, you know, 10 days have elapsed, do you feel that you've achieved that? Like, did you cross that, let's say, milestone on what was stopping you?
Yeah, I would say, like, what I want to mention is that when people want to see what are, like, think of doing RTT, first of all, like, before the session, you have to identify what's exactly the issue that you want to address and what you're dealing with. For me, it was very physical as well, because I was being held back by my physical anxiety. Like I was telling you before, it's hard, like everything, it gives you anxiety. So in the session itself, yeah, definitely we went there, like, and it's a flow, and it's reciprocal. So if you need a bit of a push, or you need to go into more detail, it happens then and there. It's a very go with the flow process. And I think when people also hear about hypnotherapy, they're always imagining things like they saw on TV, or, you know, like they think it's like, you know, something else, but it's not. It's like, you know, it feels like yeah, it feels like guided meditation. Like, it's amazing, but you do get visuals. And I think that for me, because I was already you know, in the like, I was already in the space before, like the spiritual space, holistic healing space, I trust and I believe in it. And so I went with the flow, and I understood what was happening. I think for some people who are new to this, they may need to, like, inform themselves a little bit before. I'm not sure if this is in your experience, Helen, if you've met people like that. But yeah, I mean, in the session itself, it took me, like, really deep to my childhood. I saw myself as a child. I felt all the emotions that I felt. as a kid, I saw, you know, the motherhood wound was very clear. It was all very structural, and every element was addressed, definitely. And after the session, I felt much lighter. I felt like I connected with my inner child, and I found my inner child, and I also let go of that baggage that I was holding related to, you know, familial issues like you know, your parents. And I think sometimes in this region, like, people, there's a general culture that exists in this region that we don't think about these things because you know, we have an obligation to fulfill towards our family and towards our parents, and this can really hold us back. But I would encourage people not to, you know, don't run away from the negative feelings, because it doesn't help you. Like, so you know, just try to look and see what's going on the inside, and it will help a lot with next generations. Like, you show up better for your family, you show up better for the people in your life. If you have children, you'll show up better for your children, you'll understand your children better. I think a lot of people run away from handling their issues because they're afraid that they're going to be shot down for it, like, you know, that you're being too selfish. If you know what, because Roger, you know what I mean, like, you know, like, we have to always like compare, like, take a bit of ourselves and give it to everyone. And I think that we need to start like taking care of ourselves first, and understanding when someone crosses the line with us, like, whoever they are, it's not okay. And no matter how you feel, some people think the abuse that they experienced isn't as bad as what some other people have been through, but then you're denying the effect that it has had and still has on you. And when you do that, you're not realizing how you're treating other people as a result in your life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that this awareness is really important, and it's very, very healing.
Yeah.
Like intergenerational trauma and like the
I actually
limiting
wanted to
beliefs.
speak about, in particular, intergenerational trauma, because
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I'll just go back through a scroll in time, and when we started communicating, you and me, like, that conversation would from your side be, you know, I'm underprivileged Palestinian girl, woman, Arab, all the obstacles that stop you from being the best version of yourself, in a sense, and this is
Yeah,
where
and
we
I think,
started.
yeah.
But you know, like I always say, this is so valid. It's real. These feelings, that feeling of, is real because you faced it all your life, right? Not because you thought it. It's because you experienced it with the, you know, dealing with society and people and, you know, maybe men, etc. So it is very valid, your reason, to feel that, you know, intergenerational traumas just happened since the, you know, since
Yeah,
1943, I think, or 19 whatever. And
well,
this
yeah.
is carried on. So my question here is two sides, and I'll ask it first to Helen. Intergenerational trauma and RTT, how do they intersect? Because I know it worked for me on that side, because when I did my session, it was addressing an intergenerational trauma. And
Yeah.
now, you know, Jumana is talking about it again, but I think it's very important because this is probably a solution to our biggest life problems.
Yeah, it is. So there were so many points that Jumana raised that I wanted to talk about. The first one I want to talk about is emotions. All your emotions are valid, but with emotions, you're not supposed to stay stuck in them. So if anybody's stuck in an emotion, they need to seek help, because a negative emotion, which I prefer to call like, they're not destructive, but they're not constructive emotions. So for emotions that don't move you forward, or for emotions that don't allow you to change, you do need to seek some help to actually get those to change. The other point that I wanted to raise is that both you, the two of you, actually both done a lot of work, and you're very spiritual and you're very aware. So if a person came to me who was very black and white, very corporate, and I started to talk to them about intergenerational trauma, they'd kind of just glaze over and go, this is not the right person for me to speak about. Interestingly, there was a feed that popped up on Instagram, and it said something like, it takes 2,000 people to create 12 generations in your lineage. So so when you think about,
you have that information, I'd love to know more about it.
Yeah, I will. I saved the post, so I can definitely find it. But I was like,
Because it looks
Yeah,
like we need 2,000 warriors for Lebanon in that sense.
so essentially, if from 12 generations ago, if life hadn't changed so dramatically, the same patterns would be passed throughout generation to generation to generation. And as society changes and evolves, then these patterns of behavior, and people say generational trauma, I just prefer to take it up a level and just say it's just a pattern of behavior. It's a pattern of behavior that's very prevalent in the region that you were. And in a lot of the regions in the Middle East, even in Eastern Europe and parts of the subcontinent, you'll find that there are a lot of villages. So you've got the big cities and you've got the villages, and then you have all the miscommunication between everyone in between and the different areas that they live in. So when you talk about intergenerational trauma and why it gets healed, it's because, one, you're aware of it, and two, when you go back and you have a level of awareness, which you can get through me asking you questions and you having your own insights, you kind of, I just wish that all people could understand how effective hypnosis is in eliminating and changing the way that you think. Because there was such a big story that you were told your entire life, Jumana, about I'm this, I'm that, I'm this. And it's this external thing
It's
that was
cultural.
pushed on.
It's the same. It's the same.
And it was just pushed on
cultural.
top. It's pushed on top of you, and it's pushed on top of you. And then now you have access to social media and you see all these different things everywhere. So you're like, well, actually, I'm supposed to be able to change with my thoughts. But you're completely correct. If you journal effectively, you can kind of eliminate the volcano from erupting. That's what journaling is like for most people. It's like, oh, I feel like I'm going to go off, so I'm going to journal and I'm not going to erupt. But life will sometimes just knock you down so hard so that you do explode. And it's this explosion when you do RTT. You get such an amazing, impactful experience because you're ready to do it. So going back to the intergenerational trauma, when you think about 2,000 people, it took 2,000 people to make you. And if you don't think that they're not passing down something to you, like you need to look at the animal kingdom and you need to kind of go, oh, okay, so this dog behaves a certain way because their parents are that way. And I wonder what their parents were like. So when you look at pedigree dogs, they're all held in such a high esteem. They're all cared for. They're all looked after. They're all pampered. So you have these pedigree dogs, and then you have everyone else who's just living on the streets, and they're all fighting to survive. And that's being passed down from generation to generation to generation. So that's the way that I look at intergenerational trauma.
Well, brief. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Jumana.
I just want to mention something. Like, the thing is that what I notice in the people around me is I think a lot of people are afraid to look within. They're afraid to see themselves. They're like, even, some of my friends that I know that are suffering, I can see them and they know they're suffering emotionally and mentally. But they're so afraid to look within to recognize what's the problem. And half of it does have to do with, patterns being passed down and like mindsets being passed down and conditioning. But also this fear of looking at the people around you and seeing them in a light different than what's acceptable in society. And I would just say to people, like, it's not going to compromise on the respect that you have, let's say, for example, towards your parents. It's just acknowledging that there's something there that you need to address. And I think facing yourself, for me, I don't think that facing myself is scary, although it is a hard job, hard work, but I think people are truly afraid. And I also wanted to mention that I think women more than men have a selfless tendency, like they carry more, like they just have this tendency that they don't want to show people that they're sad, or they don't want to, they don't want to be a burden on other people. Like
that
they
comes
just
back to being the good girl. That comes back to being
being the good girl, not expressing too much, not showing that you're upset, because then you get pushed down for it. So I would just say to people, like, the ultimate goal should be your peace of mind. Like, recognize that this is not about being selfish or, labeling someone, a perpetrator and you're a victim. It's not about victimizing yourself. It's just about, having a peace of mind, being content, being a happy person. And this is one of the many tools that will help you achieve that. And I'm way more privileged. Like, I gave myself all these labels, and I understand now, how it happened, and how I could have done differently. And I'm very, very privileged compared to so many people. And many of us living in the Gulf are very privileged compared to many people. But despite that, it does not mean that your parents or other people haven't held on to that, like, mindset from back home or from their parents, and they do this out of guilt. And
they do it out of habit. Actually, they don't do it out of guilt. They do it out of habit. They don't know any other way.
But sometimes guilt becomes a habit.
Yeah, and guilt is the
I
habit.
understand a bit where we are a very shame culture. We are a culture of shame, whether religious, social. We are a culture of shame. So we do grow up every time, whenever we do something which is perceived as shameful, we end up with guilt. So we normalize guilt, and guilt becomes a habit. So and this is very cultural,
and that was
and like Jumana said, working with that region has its specialties in a sense, and shame culture is definitely one of them.
And also, actually, sorry, one last point, because this is important now that you mentioned this. Because sometimes people bring religion into things. So I would tell people, like, this like taking care of yourself. Like, in Islam, there's something called there's jihad. Everyone hears this word and they get scared, but actually the jihad is that, like, you have to fight yourself first. You have to work on yourself first. This is actually something that your religion wants you to do. And sometimes people get scared and they use, like, band-aid techniques, to push their emotions down, and they might be afraid of, certain techniques. So I would say to people, this is, part of that, like, going into yourself. It's like a meditation. So you go into yourself and you see what's going on in the inside, and you address, the personal issues that you have, and it helps you show up better for the people around you. I don't have anything against my family or my parents. I would do everything for them without compromising on myself. So it really does take you to a better place. And it doesn't hurt anyone.
This is the main statement, is that you show up for them while showing up for you. Right? So you create the balance. It's like the boundaries.
Like, I'll just say this, like, because I used to get very irritated and impatient and angry. And everyone can see that, like, in my family, because of the way that my parents are. There's a lot of passive aggressive tendencies and all that stuff. So I found myself being very patient. Like, I live with my dad, so I find myself now, like, being very, very patient with my dad. I don't get annoyed over anything anymore. I just see him in a different way. Something within me just changed. And when something in you changes, somehow it changes your external world as well. So
and it can take a little bit of time to change your external world. So sometimes it's instantaneous, and other times it can take time to build. But there's one thing that I wanted to talk about. You mentioned that people might have a fear of facing themselves. In this process, you're just acknowledging yourself. You're acknowledging all the events that have contributed to you being you. And essentially, in all of those events, most people were not acknowledged, they were not seen. So it's an integration process. When you acknowledge yourself, there's a part of you that's not fighting on the inside to say, I need to speak up, I need to defend myself, I need this, I need that, because you've acknowledged yourself, it doesn't show out, it doesn't play out in your life, and you don't have to behave that way anymore. So that's one big point of difference that I would like to just say. You just go through a process where you acknowledge yourself in each and every stage of life.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Yeah, just because also we're running out of time. My last question is, so Jumana started this because she wanted change in her life. And I'm one of those people who believe that what we do as in our work determines who we are, in a sense, what we choose as a vocation for our life. And this is the main reason I think Jumana entered into this program, is what do I dream of? What am I? Who am I, and who do I want to be in the future, and how do I get there? So I want to ask that last question to Jumana. Jumana, how do you feel now about your career and your professional future as a result of the program, and of course, RTT being part of it?
Yeah, so I got much clearer on what I want. I got affirmation on what I knew I always wanted, but your society always like pushes you down and shapes your mindset and about things. So I got clarity. It's like doing the work to go deep within yourself and reaching out, like this is the message, like this is what you want to do. So I just now need to navigate how to achieve what I want to achieve, or to be part of what I want to be a part of. And the way RTT helped me is that, it addresses that there's a lot of work that goes into it, but it addresses that. For me, it was the physical anxiety and the limiting beliefs that I had. Because the other thing that I want to mention, which I don't know if other people will understand or not, but everything starts aligning for you at the same time, like energetically in life. You start seeing messages that help you and support you into achieving what you want. Once you start doing the work, things start opening up for you, and also you start to see more things in your mind. You get more clarity on where you are, why are you the way that you are, why you made certain decisions in the past. I don't know, I got more ideas, like. So yeah, I mean, it helped me. It helped me affirm to myself what I always wanted to do, and I just need to like now work on achieving that.
Yeah, taking
Now
action.
we will
Yeah.
celebrate. We
Yeah.
celebrate.
Yeah.
I think I always tell,
Honestly,
I was
after
part
the
of the
session,
coaching for Jumana, and I say
yeah,
we always celebrate. We need to
Yeah.
celebrate. So we've celebrated
yeah,
transcending limiting beliefs, finding purpose,
Yeah.
having clarity, and moving forward. So Helen, thank you for being part of my journey on the very similar levels,
My
and of
pleasure.
Jumana's as well. So
Yeah.
celebration day today, and Jumana, we just really want you to be at your best, and for you to be the best professional and human you can be, and we have all the trust in that. So
Yeah.
and I really like, after the session I felt like I wanted to, and I mentioned this to you, Helen, after the session, I just want to share this experience with everyone. I want everyone to experience this because it was very powerful. I saw, like, I when we were talking about intergenerational trauma, like I saw my family,
Yeah.
and you see it cut, like you can see it, so people would understand based on what they're dealing with in their personal life.
Yeah.
do you want to talk about it on World Mental Health Day? It's in like a couple of weeks. Do you want to share your experience at
Yeah, I
Kiani
mean,
Wellness? And Helen hopefully will be there too, and maybe
Yeah.
we can share that experience if you'd like to share it.
we can talk about it. Yeah.
Exactly.
It depends on also what other stories are there as well, just for the sake of time. But yeah, I don't mind talking about it.
Absolutely. Let's discuss that
Amazing.
offline. Thank you. So who has the recording now?
I have the recording, and there's 2 minutes and 45 seconds left. So so I'll send you the link to
everything in indirect ways, in the sense.
We did.
Helen wanted to ask about, is there anything you want to put as a closing statement? Let's utilize those 2 minutes for that.
So
if there's anything.
So Jumana, what I would say to you is keep focused, continue to investigate where you experience some blocks, and keep taking action. I think there's something in this current day and age where people forget how much focus you need to put on taking action, and it needs to be aligned action. So take a step forward, see where it's leading you, and just continue to recalibrate to that purpose. So yeah, well done.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for your and for your work. It's amazing. Like I have a lot of interest in the space of trauma, especially within this region.
Yeah.
So I'm navigating the space, and hopefully something will come out of it, you know. I just, you know, the other thing is how do people navigate the day-to-day life on this side of everything while all this stuff is happening like right next to you, if you know what I mean. I think that's one other thing that we should talk about, but maybe on Mental Health Day, Roger.
Yeah, please, by all means.
You know what? Like, I don't watch the news, to be honest, but you can't
That
really
makes us
avoid.
We make the news. It's time to make the news. Not
it is. It is
news.
time to make the news. Yeah.
Absolutely, and this is where we'd love you. This is where I would love to see you, because you know, with that all intergenerational mess, you know, it makes you always feel that, you know, you are incapable of reaching where you want to reach. But I think we can, you know, and you can. So let's and you know, spreading that message is so powerful, and I really hope, you know, I mean, just for Helen to know, also Jumana is collaborating with me and with Reconnect. And it stemmed out as a result of her being in the program. So you'll be hearing a lot from Jumana and seeing a lot of Jumana.
Yeah, you've got a great voice, Jumana. You've got a lot to say, that's for sure. Like in terms of like, you've got a really powerful message and a really nice way of saying it as well.
Thank you so much. We're counting down now, 14 seconds.
Yeah, less than a minute.
And you both have a wonderful day. And Helen, I'll wait for the recording from you. Ideally, upload it.
Yeah, I'll do it now.
Have a great day.